Welcome back, Peter.
Thank you.
Let's talk about our next exciting topic, which is the road to raising financially independent children. I think it's a topic that's super important, not to you and me and our family, but our community and all our children, our future generation. Let's begin about your wisdom. How do you create financial independence? How did you do it with your children? I heard your story and I was very inspired by it. So let's talk about what made you to have your children create an account that drove them to financial independence, that they were able to cover their own college tuition and everything that was covered, that you don't have to work now for your kids.
Right.
All right, let's begin.
So before we begin, I just want to take a quick journey back when we came to the country. So at that point, when we came, I was 15, as I mentioned in our previous segment. And being on the public assistance, when my parents were on public assistance for many years, I gave myself a word that whenever I grow up and I have kids, I will never have them go through what I went. And I never forget when I was standing in line in the supermarket. At that time, they used to have a paper food stamps. And in front of me, there was a lady. She was in her late 40s, struggling to find change in her. And in the meantime, I'm standing there with the free money. You know, that was embarrassing. I was all red. But you know what? We can't look backwards. Let's look ahead. Don't look in the rear view mirror, no matter what happens. Look straight ahead. So what happens is, before we talk about how I did it with my kids, I just want to mention a couple of things. You see, our generation is going backwards, in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because when we came to the country, every store you saw our kids at that time, 15, 16-year-old, working in supermarkets, working in the regular stores, selling things. Now I'm seeing less and less of kids, especially from our communities, doing those jobs. And I actually blame our parents for this because, well, us as a parent, a lot of parents are failing because they're creating kids that may be financially well now because of what the parents were able to achieve, but are they going to be financially prepared and able to keep everything that's going to be passed on to them if you don't educate them? Because as the saying goes, if you give fisherman a fish, you'll feed the man or woman. But if you teach them how to fish, okay, you will never have to feed them again. They will learn how to feed themselves.
Absolutely.
So with that said, when I sit down with people that come to me for financial advice all the time, and I actually had one time a person, and a lot starts with the mindset of a person, right? So this person was negative, living on the credit cards, pretty much about $200 a month, negative, okay? And when I was looking at her expenses, I saw that she has 2 phones, and she was a single mom. And I noticed that she's financing the phones. And I said, who is the second phone for? And she goes, that's for my child. I said, how old is the child? She goes, 6 years of age.
Wow.
Now, that 6-year-old girl had a brand new Apple iPhone that her mom was financing. And I asked her, I said, can I ask you a question? And usually I'm very contained. I can hold myself. In this case, I was about to explode, but I had to hold myself, I said, why would you have a 6-year-old running around with an Apple iPhone, brand new, that you're paying $45, whatever she was paying, over $40 for it? And she goes, well, that's how I keep in touch. I said, oh, really? Let's go to eBay. So I found her no brand name phone on eBay for like $79. I said, what's wrong with getting that phone without being financed? Put an Apple sticker on it. Pretend it's Apple phone. Give it to her. Well, that's what you have to do. All right? And she looked at me like I have three heads, It's like, but you see, it's the mindset.
Yeah.
See, right now, I see a lot of kids in our community, especially, driving expensive cars, wearing expensive clothing, having everything they want, but they do not pay for it.
Right.
Okay, it's delivered to them by their parents
It's given to
on
them.
a silver platter.
Right.
Here,
It's given to them.
my son, my daughter, just, no need to worry. So it's great that the families can afford to give that to the kids, but what's going to happen to the kids later on? Are they able to actually financially be successful and manage what was given to them versus working hard for it? And I never forget my daughter, when she was about 13, she came to me and she said, oh, Daddy, I want an iPhone. I said, you want an iPhone? She never had any phone. I said, wow, that's interesting. Right off the bat, you want an iPhone. What's wrong with the flip phone? And she said, no. And I said, I know exactly what the problem is. The problem is the peer pressure.
Yeah.
And we are surrounded by peer pressure all the time.
Yes.
It's, and unfortunately, a lot of time it starts from us acting around our kids and doing the wrong moves, because we cannot separate the difference between I want and I need, which we will cover in our next segment. But When she approached me, I said, listen, I know exactly why you want the iPhone. And she said, why? I said, because everyone in your school or in your class probably has one, and you don't want to be looked at, oh my God, this girl doesn't even have a phone. And she looked at me, she said, yes, Daddy. I said, I'll tell you what, you're going to go to work. At the age of 14, you can get a blue papers from work, and then you're going to be able to afford your phone. And she said, okay. At the age of 14, she went to work. Now, when she got her first couple of checks, she came to me and she said, Daddy, I got money for iPhone. I said, you're not going to get iPhone. She was very upset. I said, let me tell you why. iPhone costs $1,000. How long did you work with that paycheck that you had? And she said, oh, I worked 2 weeks. I said, exactly. Do you really want to spend the 2 weeks that you worked so hard for on a phone that's only going to last you maybe a year, maybe two, and then you got to replace it? I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy you a phone that I think you will be very happy with. And then if you like it, you're going to hold it for a couple of months. You're going to pay me for that phone. If you don't like it, I needed to upgrade my phone. I'll take it away from you. So I went online, and it was Thanksgiving at that time, and I got on Black Friday, I got a Google Pixel for her. Now, 2 months passed. She comes in, she gives me a hug, and she goes, Daddy, thank you so much. I'm like, what is for? I already forgot. And she goes, oh, everyone in my class wants the same phone because of the pictures that it's taking. I'm like, that's great. Where's the money? And she looked at me. She's like, what? I said, yeah, you have to pay me back. Because she needs to understand the value of money. If everything is given, it's not the same. So she paid me back. And from that point on, I made sure that she knows that when the time comes for college, I do not want her to have any loans, but I do not want to provide a financial support either. And reason for that is because she needs to understand what the struggles are, and she needs to actually appreciate her profession that she chooses the first time and not switch different professions because now, it's okay. My parents paid for it, or I got the loans. It's okay. It is what it is. Everyone is getting loans, which is, by the way, one of the biggest problems in this country, that for many of us, it is what it is. Everyone has loans. It is what it is. So with that said, I said, no, you're going to pay for college cash, okay? And right now, my oldest, she's 20. She's in her third year in Adelphi nursing program. She's paying cash, no loans, okay, from the money that she earned. My middle one, she's 17. She's in Adelphi on psychology program. She's paying cash. My 11-year-old, he's already selling things in his school, and he's telling me to put it in his bank account because he knows he's going to be paying for his college cash, okay? Now, will I help my kids? Eventually, of course. But at the same time, I want them to appreciate everything that they work so hard for and everything that they got for. And, I'm going to mention this in our investment portion, but I want to say this. If you can show your kids now how to be financially independent, and they all can start with $10 a day, because I'm going to name the website right now, if you don't mind.
Of course.
The website is very easy. It's called financialmentor.com. The reason why I like that website, it has calculators for everything you can think of. So if you go to that website and you click on calculator and compound interest calculator, you'll be able to see that $10 a day, which is $300 a month, at 12% for 30 years, that's $1,069,000.
Wow.
Okay. So now people may want to know, where do I get 12% from? That's in our next segments. All right. So we'll cover that.
Excellent.
But it's, I beg you, do not give kids everything that they want, especially when the time comes for weddings also. Okay. I paid for my wedding myself. I did not have my parents, but they weren't rich. I knew that whatever I'm working for, I would have to save because that's what's going to pay for my wedding. And people will talk, no matter if you have a large wedding or small weddings. Okay, there is always going to be someone who's going to be criticizing you. There is always someone who's going to say that was phenomenal wedding, even if there was not 20 salads on the table. And you know what? Those people that criticize you, that's how you will know who to separate yourself from.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, talking about weddings, during COVID, my son was supposed to get married, and we had no choice because everything was shut down. And I called my cousin Roman, who you know very well, and I said, Roman, what do I do? I have no choice. What do I do? And he said to me, Olga, don't worry about it. Just have a wedding in your backyard. And he supported me. I don't know if he did his part in any way, but we did have police come out, many more, gave him, a couple of barbecues and a couple of shots and say, hi, come and join us. But, we were able to have a beautiful wedding in our backyard. It was actually the most viewed wedding in YouTube during the time. It was one of the first weddings in the backyard
But
during
you know what?
COVID.
That shows that no matter what
Right.
situation is, you can have a normal wedding. You don't need to
Absolutely.
have 300 people,
Yeah.
400,
Oh,
500
we had the
people.
best wedding. It was outside. It was, so much wonderful food. And we had a band outside and decorations. And it was, like under a beautiful sky. And people just had a blast. It was amazing.
And you will have more memories from that day
Yes.
than from our
Absolutely.
recent current weddings where you
Yes.
spent thousands of dollars for 3 hours that
It's
will be forgotten. And I
it's
always tell
so
people,
unnecessary.
it's not the day of the wedding, it's the life afterwards that you
Absolutely.
live, you know?
It's so unnecessary. And, speaking of finances and speaking of children, I think that the most important part is for us, including myself, I'm going through the process where I'm trying to learn how to become better. How do we teach our children to become more financially independent? How do we teach them to invest? And it all starts with us as parents, right? So we need to be a good example for our children.
Mhm.
So we could show them how do we make money? How do we invest it properly? How do we allocate the funds where it's, do I need this or do I want this?
Exactly.
Because in many cases, we don't even need this anymore. And you and I know, being in the real estate world, I do a lot of property cleanouts for my clients where we're going through the process of, getting things organized because family passes and it's my journey to clean it up and put it on the market. And it just breaks my heart, Peter, to see the dumpsters outside and we just throw everything out. Some of it we could donate,
Mhm.
but some of it just goes all in the garbage.
Yep.
And it's just amazing how our children need to understand the value of money. And it's our job and now it's our responsibility as parents to begin first with us
Mhm.
and then teach our children how to do it. And you are a true inspiration when it comes to that. Because if you did it with your children and your kids are now paying for their own school, now you will have to come out and teach our community and our generation how did you do it? How did you master that skill? And now you could teach everyone and showcase how we can really do this for people in our community. So our children could become financially independent and not just given things. And at many cases, like you said, they got a fancy car, they got a fancy home, they got a fancy outfits. But you know what? In today's world, and you and I know, it's not even safe.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at what's happening outside. Our kids at gun stop, right? They just demand for cash, demand for keys, demand for watches. It's dangerous. So I think its universe is showing us the way to reevaluate the importance of material things,
Mhm.
reevaluate the importance of showing off. Yes, you were able to work hard, you were able to achieve this. Great. I was one of them too. I'm not an example. I was also one of them that got broken into. I don't know if they've been watching me. I don't know. But in the end of the day, my children now know. Does mommy want any more jewelry? The answer is no. Where do I want to invest? Things like this. That you and I right now sitting in the studio and you and I investing our precious time and really thinking and brainstorming how can we build a better future for our children and our families.
Absolutely.
That's my investments right now. I stopped investing into jewelry, stopped investing into all kinds of fancy things because to me it's all means nothing.
We have to invest into time to spend
Correct.
with the kids. And usually I ask this question, for people that tell me, oh, I got to work, some people have two jobs, and I usually ask them a question, do you have kids? And when the person says yes, I said, do you work for money or do you work for kids? And people
Kids.
usually say kids. I said, well, you just said you work for kids, but you have two jobs. So at which point I need money to
Pay
help
for
my kids.
kids.
And I said, let me ask you a question. If you're working, who is raising your kids? Okay, if you're working so hard, are you there for the kids? You're working for money. You're not working for your kids because if you did work for your kids, then you know what? You would be at home with your child, making a difference on raising that child instead of being raised by friends from the street, by video games, by TV shows that are crappy. Okay, so that's what we're seeing right now in our society. And why do we have such a drug issue in our communities,
You just
right?
read my mind.
Because you have parents that give everything to the kids that don't need to be involved with work, and they can spend that money, and now they have so much free time on being around wrong friends. Because if the person is working, they're not on the street. All right. So they being around the wrong crowd. And a lot of the times, once they start going out with that crowd, it's very hard to separate them from that crowd because now you're losing control of your child because they already felt what it is like to go to the clubs. They already know what it is to hang out with the people, and they start liking that environment.
Right.
So it's going to be very hard to pull that person back.
Well, I appreciate your input on that, Peter. It's a very, very important topic for many, many people that will be hopefully listening to us. It all comes out purely from a place of generosity. We care. We love our future generation. We want to raise good children. We want to raise good community. And so we could enjoy our future. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode. I appreciate it. We'll be sharing so much more amazing, wonderful investments 101 and a bunch of other important topics. Please keep following. Please keep subscribing. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you
Stay
for having
tuned.
me.